welcome to our second career speaker series of the spring semester. My name is Nick Simino, and I am the interim outreach coordinator here for the CMIN and ADOT and cloud computing programs at Delgado, and I am today's host. Today, I am joined by Chantae King. Chantae is an associate media manager at Home Depot's corporate headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia. In this role, she manages the brand voice of multiple vendors by developing and driving advertising content for their products. She is one of the people responsible for the ads you see online when you visit web and social media sites. So what does this work in marketing look like? What was Chantae's career path to get here? We'll find out today. But real quick, before I turn it over to Chantae, I'd like to tell everyone exactly what the Career Speaker Series is and go over a few ground rules. For those of you who are new, the Career Speaker Series is a monthly series of guest presentations from industry professionals in the IT and related fields to talk about what it is that they do, how they got there, and how you can too. We put these events on to demystify tech careers and opportunities in the world for all students, faculty, and staff of Delgado, as well as for members of the community, since technology is all around us. I know it's helpful to see someone in one of these careers before you think about which ones you would like to do too. We will have time for question and answers built into the back half of our presentation. So if you think about questions, hold on to them until we hit the Q&A part at the end. We're going to let Chantae go for 20 or 30 minutes, but you can drop your questions in the chat and we will get to them in the end. And finally, if you are having fun today, tell your friends. Let them know what you saw today. Tell them about what you heard. We're going to be posting this on YouTube, hopefully tomorrow or the next day. And if you want to reach out and shout us out on Twitter or Instagram, LinkedIn, we are at Delgado IT Pro. So you can use those handles, and we like to use hashtag the other CSS, not a cascading style sheet, but a career speaker series. So thank you again for being here, and let us warmly welcome Chantae King, whose birthday it is.
Thank you so much, Nicholas, for that amazing intro. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me today. I do appreciate you taking the time out to listen to me talk about digital marketing, digital advertising, and in particular, the paid search channel. So paid search, I'll start there. As Nicholas said, I am responsible for the ads that you see online on Google, on Bing, when it comes to the Home Depot and their products. Paid search is one of the channels that we follow in digital marketing. Another channel will be social media. Other channels of marketing that you may know are traditional marketing, such as print ads, commercials, and TV commercials and radio commercials, more traditional marketing. But as we are in this digital world, at some point we had to become digital online and get the advertising there. So I'll take you back to the start of it. So I started out in 2005 in what used to be Bell South. I don't know if you all remember Bell South. Some of you 80s babies who might be on the call might remember Bell South, but younger generation, that might be a thing of the past. But that company used to be one of the largest telecommunications companies in the US. And it evolved over time. But in 2005, they decided that they wanted to try to do paid search in-house. So they built a team of, young people like myself coming out of college who didn't necessarily know what paid search was, but thought it was interesting enough to, see it as maybe a career path. So for me, I'm a writer. I went to school, I majored in marketing, I minored in writing. My thought process while I was an undergrad was, I write jingles, right? Because I love music. I'm also a musician. And I thought, it'd be nice to write, commercials and write jingles. That seems like it'd be fun and interesting. So Bell South at the time, they were looking for a copywriter. They wanted a creative copywriter to come in and write ad copy for these paid search ads. I had no idea what paid search was. Okay, Google hadn't long been out that, a few years by 2005. So this is all fresh to people. Back in this time, there was no coursework in school to teach you how to do this. This was all on the job training. So if you had a skill set, such as I did, that I was a writer, you could come in the ground of a company, an agency, a large corporation like a Bell South and so forth, from a creative perspective and start there. So I wrote the ad copy, like I said, for their paid search ads. Back then, Google was the only platform that had online advertising. And so that was our main focus. Ad copy is definitely it's a very particular skill set, because if you notice when you're online searching for something, there aren't too many character spaces in those ads in order for you to drive business to that brand. You have to be able to be concise, but also informative in the words that you're putting out there so that it can grab someone's attention and they'll actually click on the ad and proceed to the product to make a purchase with that company. Companies that I started out doing paid search for within a huge telecommunications company, they were all mom and pop businesses around Metro Atlanta. So your plumbers, your personal injury attorneys, your dentist's office, things like that, your local roofer, your local dog groomer. These are people who were trying to put their small businesses online so that they can get that foot traffic into their storefronts or even to maybe their own e-commerce site. That's kind of like where it started out, right? But over the past, 20 years, it has grown into this huge industry that is pretty much the bulk of the way the advertising is going. Some major companies still do print. You definitely see commercials all over the place, right? That's definitely a medium that's going to keep going on radio and TV. But online just kept going and growing and growing. And as the industry grows, you have to grow with it, so to speak. So I started off at Bell South. Bell South got bought by AT&T in 2007. So when AT&T acquired the company, they were moving more into a consultant role. So I went from being a creative copywriter where I just wrote ad copy all day, and I actually enjoyed writing ad copy. It kept me creative. It kept the right brain going. I was liking it. And then I moved over to AT&T where they were like, well, we want you to be customer facing. We want you to actually talk to clients. We want you to, consult them on their marketing strategy, and then also do the campaign build out and any type of changes that they have on the back end to their campaign. And this is all new to me, right? I had never been customer facing. I was like the machine behind the green curtain. Just let me write these ads. I'm good to go. Don't bother me. I don't talk to people, right? So I had to get out of my shell a little bit, get out of my comfort zone, and move into this consultant role, which ended up being a good thing for me. I can be outgoing at times, but to be honest, I am an introvert. I do like to be behind the curtain. I'm definitely a more behind the scenes person, but it forced me to, have a voice in the role that I was doing every day. So in being a consultant in digital marketing, essentially what that is I would speak to clients. They would tell me about their brand, about their business, the products and services that they sell, and what type of representation they wanted online. Is, the brand voice of a company is huge. Is how somebody's going to perceive you, is whether or not they're actually going to want to do business with you. We were in that space where people were starting to realize that they needed a website. They didn't have one. It's 05, it's 06. So people are really starting to say, okay, I really need to have this digital calling card out here so that people can take my business more seriously, right? And so we build websites in-house to go with their marketing package in paid search, looking from a small business side of it, like I said, doctors, dentists, personal injury attorneys, dog groomers, and such around the metro area. They had packages where you would have your marketing strategy attached to your website, so that when anybody click on the ad, they'll go directly to the website and they can find everything that they need. Essentially, that's what paid search is. These ads are going to go directly to your business. We're going to see everything we need to see. Everything should be to the consumer within 1 to 2 clicks. Like, that's the turnaround. If I click on it, I should be able to see it in the first time I click, or maybe in the second time I click. But that's really the time frame that we have in this business to capture someone's business. Like, it's a 1-2 click turnaround in order to get somebody interested in making a purchase with that client and the services or products that they offer. So moving along to AT&T, I was there to about 2011, and I will be very honest. Corporate life does go through these peaks and valleys of you could be getting close to corporate burnout. So by 2011, doing paid search for a while, I was starting to feel that, okay, I definitely need to switch it up. Like I need to do something different. I need to do something that's going to challenge me every day, because by this point, I could build campaigns in my sleep. You know what I mean? I could write ad copy in no time. It would take me 30 seconds to generate ads for multiple companies. It would be nothing to just write it, because it's such small text, right? It's 35 characters a line, it's 25 characters in the title. You can generate that in no time. It doesn't take that long to put the voice together if you understand the client and what they're asking for, right? So I left corporate and decided that I would go to an agency. So in 2011, I went to an agency here in Atlanta called True IT Pros. True IT Pros was very small, like mom and pop. We started off in his basement at his house. We didn't have an office front, but I liked that because I came from major corporation to a very, very small environment. And I kind of just wanted to see how I would respond, right? All these years, being on a huge team, doing all of this work, how does it translate to a smaller environment? And what kind of responsibilities will I have in this smaller environment when I don't have this huge team around me? So in going to True IT Pros, I ended up being the only marketing person that they had in the whole company. My responsibilities for them, I handled all of the in-house marketing for the company itself. So I had to learn the voice of True IT Pros. I had to learn the brand. I had to learn how True IT Pros presents itself out to its customers and clients. But we also offered digital marketing packages for our clients. So I also had to learn the clients that we were bringing in-house to also represent their brand voice too. So I ended up being just the umbrella of digital for True IT Pros. And what that involved was I still did paid search, which is SEM is the acronym, is search engine marketing. I did SEO, which is search engine optimization. I did blogs. I created blogs for the company and for its clients. I created newsletters, weekly newsletters for both. I managed social media platforms such as Twitter and Facebook, and that did include running ads on that platform, because you can do paid ads on Facebook and Twitter, as you know. Now that is something that they offer. And I also wrote website content. So I started off creative. I got kind of analytical for a while, and then I went back to my creative side. So every day it was my job to sit down, and I was customer facing. Let's be clear. When those clients came into True IT Pros, they sat down with me one-on-one. We had a discussion about their company, their brand, and their goals, right? Because when we're thinking about advertising, it's not just throwing ads out there, like throwing darts at a wall. You're not just saying, oh, we're going to see what sticks. No, there's strategy behind it. You have to know what demographic you want to reach. You have to know who your customers are. You have to know what new customers you want to reach, because it's not just maintaining the current client base, it's gaining new clients as well, because we're trying to keep the business going. So we'd have to have these, pretty in-depth discussions so that I would have a clear understanding as to who they are and what they want. So I was definitely client-facing within True IT Pros. And just to give a little bit more context to that company, even though it was small, they had three components. They had the digital marketing services that they offered to their clients. They had IT services, such as, setting up networks for businesses, doing any type of repairs on computers, and any type of networking repairs for those companies. And then we also did web design. So a lot of the work that I was doing would actually be a total package where they would actually get a website built for us. And then I would do everything on the back end, which would be the SEO. I would make sure that the website was ready to actually be put online. Right? You have to make sure websites are ready on the back end in order for them to actually be found when people are searching for them. So I had to do all the metadata. I had to do all the tagging. I had to write the website content from beginning to the end. And these websites would be small websites for like 3-page websites to 10 to 20 to 30 pages worth of content. So it would have me in a space where I could be, completely creative. Luckily enough, these clients trusted me after we had their consultation to say that I feel like she understands who we are and she has a good idea of what we want. Go for it. And telling me to go for it was like, you really want me to do that? Okay. And I got super excited every time we had a new client come in because I knew that I was going to be able to, help them out. And it wasn't always like 100% smooth, right? Everything is not going to always go according to plan. Sometimes I wouldn't necessarily get a component of the brand right. And then we'd have to go back and talk about it again to say, okay, maybe I missed the mark on here. We can course correct and we can actually get it right and put out the right calling card for you on this digital platform that you want to be on. True IT Pros was fun, but you guys are in school and I'm going to keep it 100% real with you. Small businesses don't tend to pay good wages. So I'm going to keep it 100. I was in corporate America and I got accustomed to the lifestyle that corporate America had me in, okay? So going to a small agency, I definitely took a pay cut, but I was okay with it at the time because, again, I could see that I was kind of getting tapped out in the corporate scene and I just needed to fall back and get to a space where I was like, okay, I can breathe. I can still do good work. I'm learning because prior to that, I never did blogs for people. I never did SEO for anyone. I was not responsible for helping a web designer actually construct to build an actual website from scratch. So I was learning as I was on the job in this role too. It was just a smaller environment. And I guess, a different level of pressure because it's all on me. I'm doing all your in-house marketing. I'm doing all your external marketing too. If anything goes wrong, who do you think they're going to look at? They're going to come back to me and say, well, how can we fix it? So I had to definitely have a keen understanding of how to switch a brand voice, right? Everybody's voice is not the same. And as I'm taking on these different clients, they're all in different verticals. The industry that a company in, we call that their vertical. So if you're in, like I said, if you're in plumbing, HVAC, that's a vertical, like a home services vertical. If you were a lawyer, you're in a legal vertical and so forth and so forth. So I always had to be able to switch my thought process because talking for a personal injury lawyer is not talking for, a roofer down the street. They're not the same vertical. They're not the same business. So you have to understand who that client is that person is getting and make sure that you drive that home every single time that you put them online. True IT Pros, I was there for, and I was still at True IT Pros even when I went back to corporate. So I ended up going back to corporate. After a while, I got my skill set up in the small business, but then I went back to corporate and I went to Cox Media Group. Some of you may have heard of Cox. Cox Media Group is a division of Cox Communications. It was an in-house agency within Cox. So because they are also in telecommunications and broadcasting, the clients for Cox were actually the different radio stations and television stations that they owned across the United States. And those clients who advertised with them through TV and radio, this is around 2014, wanted to do other advertising. So they started looking at the digital side and Cox started offering their clients packages where they could do paid search in-house for them. So I came on as a campaign manager with them. And essentially what that was I had to build SEM campaigns from scratch. You heard me mention that these campaigns run on Google and Bing. So I would have to still write the ad copy, but I'd also have to do the keyword research. I would also have to build out the frame of the campaign because when you're actually working in Google and Bing, it's a build out process. All of these things go into the platform and then on the back end, it comes out to be a lovely ad that the consumer can click on. But on the back end of Google, when we're in as an analyst or as a campaign manager, we're in there actually building out the campaign strategy for the clients within the Google platform. So throughout the years, I've always had to evolve, not only with learning the different brand voices of these clients that I had to interact with, but I also had to learn the different platforms that different companies use. Not all companies are going to use the same thing. The only thing that's a constant in digital advertising is Google and Bing. Google is king, as you know. Bing is sort of like the redheaded stepchild. But people do advertise on both. But definitely, when you think about searching for something online, most of us go to Google first. That's just the truth. You know, people are going to always Google something before they Bing something. But those are the two platforms that I consistently worked with throughout my career. So I would always have to learn different integrations that they were doing. Right? They haven't stayed the same. They've had to, create different types of ads. They've gone from just your plain ad text that you would see on a Google page to product listing ads like shopping ads and display ads. We all know display ads. When you log into your email and you see something pop over to the right, that's a display ad. I've put those ads in front of you. I'm pretty sure you've clicked on something that I've written over the years, because it's not just clients that are here in Metro Atlanta, it's clients across the United States. I have had clients in New Orleans. I've had clients in New York, LA, wherever, just clients anywhere that wanted to reach out to that particular company at that time to get paid advertising done with them. So at Cox Media Group, I started out as a campaign manager, but then the opportunity presented itself to me to not necessarily get more creative, but definitely to switch it up a little bit. And I took on a role as being an editor, a website editor while I was there. So Cox decided that they wanted to bring in website development in-house as far as like offering that with a package to their clients. But they had an offsite agency that actually built the websites for them. My job was to proofread all of the websites for context, syntax, and make sure that everything actually looked good before we launched. So if pictures were wrong, if the ad copy, if the website content didn't read well, it was my job to clean all of that up and send it back to the team to make sure that they follow the instructions as the client asked them to, but also just to make sure that everything was clean and ready to go. So we was putting our best foot forward when we actually launched the website. That role was good for a while. It kept me, I guess, from being in that hole. I might creep back towards that burnout, because the campaign management, I will say this, depending on who you work for and how they're structured within their advertising team will depend on how rigorous it is for you. Advertising in itself can be stressful. And it's stressful in the sense of, I always have deadlines, right? I always have a date that I have to work towards. When I say that we launch things, we do just that. We have launch dates, we have to prepare, we have project managers that come in and help us stay on track. All of these things work together in order to make sure that the right strategy for the client is being put out online, okay? So from Cox Media Group, I moved over to, dig this, Yellow Pages. I'm pretty sure that's a throwback. Circling back to the Bell South story, Bell South got bought by AT&T in 2007, and then Yellow Pages evolved from AT&T in 2013. So 2011. So YP was around back then. I still actually had colleagues that I worked with back at Bell South and AT&T that went through the whole lineage of that company, and they were actually at YP when I returned. And it was a good thing to go with them. I actually got to be creative again. I went to YP to become the senior copywriter for their paid search team that they had in-house. They had a team called Search Pro, which was like an in-house agency. It was a smaller team within the larger corporation of their paid advertising. We were more of a white glove service. And what that means in this industry is that we're more hands-on. We're more one-on-one. We will sit down with the client. We will really work it out. Large corporations are almost like, when they're doing paid search, it can be kind of cookie cutter at times, where you don't feel like what a client would say. They don't necessarily feel like they're getting, I guess, all of our energy towards, their advertising. But I don't think the clients understood that this is advertising on a large scale. Like we're a large company, we're not an agency. So you kind of can't get that one-on-one time. You can't call us on Saturday because you want to run an ad on Sunday. Like this is not how it works. You kind of have to have everything laid out for us up front so that we know we're not the kind of, company where we're going to pick up your phone calls on a weekend just to do advertising for you at the drop of a dime. However, at Search Pro, it was more one-on-one. So if they did have a promotion that they wanted to run short term, we actually could do that for them. Coming in as a senior copywriter, the manager who hired me was actually in the role before me. And so what happened is that they had a team, a small team of about 15 people or so, to be on this Search Pro agency. A lot of analytical people in advertising don't like to write, okay? They can write ad copy, they probably don't like to do it. So when they interviewed me, they were like, we just want somebody who can write and actually likes doing it, because we got a team of guys back here. They just want to build campaigns. They don't want to worry about the voice. They don't want to have to really worry about the brand. They just want somebody to generate some good ad copy to them, and then they do the rest. So essentially they brought me on to be the beginning of that process. I wrote the ad copy and I created the whole infrastructure for all the campaign build out for the analysts, so that when they came in, all they had to do was kind of click and plug and put in the keywords, put it into the Google platform, and then launch it towards the launch date. So I gave them the framework for the campaign strategy, and then they just had to do everything else. Of course, in the corporate world, as I mentioned before, when Bell South bought AT&T, another company out in Texas called Dex Media Group bought YP in 2017. So Yellow Pages were merged with Dex, and then they became Dex YP. My role still stayed the same. I was still senior copywriter. I was still creating infrastructure for all of our campaigns that rolled out through Search Pro. But as the company kept evolving, again, I had to evolve too, because I had all of these years of paid search under my belt, and it went, across social media. And back to True IT Pros, it was website content and SEO, and I knew how to do things on the back end and the front end of advertising. They pulled me on to be a performance strategist. So that role was kind of like the consultant role. I had to call clients, I had to talk to them. I had to actually, and when I say you're client facing in every part of it. You're client facing in the beginning, the middle, and the end. The beginning to set everything up. The middle is like as we're working and things come along, you have promotions and different discounts or whatever that you need to put out there so the consumer can find it. And then on the back end is more or less like, well, how has this advertising actually benefited me, right? Because people want to see that what they're paying for is actually working, right? So you're probably thinking, well, it's advertising. There's no guarantee. And we say this all the time. You could watch a commercial today. It doesn't mean you're going to go out and buy that product. You know what I mean? You can lead the horse to water. You can't necessarily make it drink. But in digital, in paid search, I think that once you get the science down to how to put those ads out there, you kind of can get the horse to drink the water. So I would always have to explain to clients, okay, I let them hear, and this is the return on your investment. So there's also the reporting aspect of paid search where you have to still be analytical, because you have to be able to read the data and you have to be able to explain it to people who have no idea what you're talking about. Okay, most clients do not understand paid search. Most people actually don't even understand how Google works. They just know that they go there, they look for stuff and they find it, but they actually do not know how the platform itself works. Our job within advertising has also been to educate the client so that they would also understand, the return on the investment when we get to the reporting phase of what we do with them. Reporting is usually on a monthly basis, right? And that's just because it takes about 30 days within those platforms in order for you to actually see them work. Within digital, there's what we call ramp up time. So just because we shoot ads out to Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Google, Bing, whatever, it doesn't mean that they're actually going to work right then and there. It doesn't work in real time like that. Ramp up for any paid search ad is 30 days. Okay, you need 30 days to actually, you've heard this word, to get the algorithm going so that it can actually understand the language and push it out as you have it set to push out within the platform. So from there, I was there at DexYP till October of 2019, and then I joined the Home Depot. As you know, Home Depot is a huge major corporation based in Atlanta, Georgia, specializes in home improvement products for the everyday DIY consumer, but also for our pro contractors that are out there in the construction world, building all these lovely buildings and homes and things that we see in our different cities across America. My role in Home Depot, I came in as a contractor. And let me just say this as a side note. Within this industry, you will find that a lot of companies will hire you as a contractor first. They usually hire you as a contractor, sort of like on a trial basis, to see if you actually can handle the pace, right? And see if you can actually handle the workload, see how you're going to work within the team, work within the culture of the company, work with your clients if you're client facing. And then later on, they'll have opportunities where you can convert over into an associate role. So Home Depot is truly like a beast of its own. There's a running joke when people come in new that you'll learn it in the first 2 years. And that's true. Like my first year was kind of bumpy. And it was just bumpy because they have their own language. There's a lot of acronyms in this business. There's literally a book this thick full of Home Depot acronyms that I've yet to learn. And I'm going to be honest, I haven't looked at it. Sometimes in meetings, they throw things at me and I go to the chat, what does that mean? Because I haven't learned your 1,000 acronyms within this business. But for the Home Depot, when they brought me in as a contractor, they brought me in as a paid search analyst to manage their vendor-funded campaigns within the tools and hardware department. You've been to a Lowe's, you've been to a Home Depot, when you go through the aisles, every aisle is labeled for that particular part of, the area in which you need to find products. So you have your plumbing, you have your roofing, you have your siding, you have your power tools, and this is that and the third. Under tools and hardware, under vendor funds, I was responsible for the brands that actually sell products with the Home Depot, within the tools department, within the hardware department. So I had to learn all of these brands for a industry that I knew nothing about. As a consumer, I just know that I need a light bulb, I'm at Home Depot. I need a screwdriver, I'm at Home Depot. I didn't know DeWalt. I didn't know Milwaukee. I didn't know Ryobi. I didn't know these brands. But now when I go in there, I know tools like the back of my hand because it's my responsibility to know every tool brand they sell. I know hardware. And when we say hardware, it's like doorknobs, door hinges, screws, the most minute thing that you wouldn't think matters, it really matters. And these brands put millions of dollars into their advertising. So you're responsible for a lot. Let's take a side note and let's talk about the money aspect of it, because that's where I am now. So you've heard me say I came in creative as a copywriter. I never had to deal with budgets. I only dealt with words. I went on to a consultant. I did have to deal with budgets, but these budgets were on a larger scale. When you're thinking about mom and pop stores, they only want to spend like a couple of $100s a month on advertising, a couple of $1,000s a year. But when you move it into a retail space, such as a Home Depot, this is where the big boys play, okay? They're not spending chump change. So for me, going through my career, I will be honest, I was nervous. There's already a learning curve to be in this company and how they do things and their language and lingo to everything. But then there's also, the responsibility of these brands coming to the Home Depot to say, I trust you to not only sell my products, but to advertise my products online. Okay, there's product display within store, but then there's also online displays that we do for them through display ads. We do Google shopping ads for them and Bing shopping ads. We still do regular text ads. Like when I said writing ad copy, I still write ad copy. Shopping ads don't have any ad copy attached to them. That's usually just a product listing that works through a feed through Google, and we just blast it out there. There's still an infrastructure for building these things. There's still a build out process, but it's a little different between shopping and text. I don't necessarily have enough time to really explain the intricacies of that. That's probably another presentation in itself. But those are the different things that I was responsible for these vendors, in that I had to do all of their text ads, all of their shopping ads for whatever products that they currently sell with the Home Depot, or in some cases when I came on, or shall I say in 2020, because I came in on the end of 2019, and then in 2020, we really got rocking and rolling. In retail, the fiscal year works a little different. So for us, our fiscal year actually starts February the 1st. So where everybody's starting their new year in January, our new year technically doesn't start to February. So we're wrapping up things around the holiday time. As you know, Black Friday is huge in retail. So towards the Christmas time and the end of the year, we're super, super, super busy. And then we get ready for our fiscal year coming up in February. So I also had to learn how to work within that fast pace of holiday. I never had to work on holiday promotions like that. I never had to sort of like be on call. Like, it's all hands on deck when it's Christmas time. Okay. People are out there shopping. We have to reach a bottom line. The advertising is a crucial component to make sure that consumers know what we have to offer them. So we do a lot of shopping ads, mostly shopping ads during that time, to try to make sure that everything that the consumer needs is at a one click. They see it, they click on it, they're going to go and they're going to purchase it. That's essentially the turnaround time that we're looking for within this retail space. Last year, June 2021, I converted from being a contractor with Home Depot to being an associate media manager. So what that involved is I'm not so much hands-on in the campaign management day-to-day anymore. So in the analyst role and in the campaign manager role within paid search, no matter what the channel is, you could be in paid search channel, you could be a social media channel, you can be a display channel. When you are the analyst, when you are the campaign manager, you're more on hands-on with the campaigns. You're the day-to-day person who goes in to make sure that the traffic is coming into those campaigns, because that's what they're there for, right? They're generating traffic to the client's website so that they can make a purchase, and there's the return, right? So that person has to really be in Google, really be in Bing interface, as we say, the UI, to make sure that nothing's broken, okay? And sometimes things will break, and there's a glitch in the matrix, if you will. But you have to be agile. You got to be quick. You got to turn it around, because we never want things to pause. We never want things to stop. Okay, they have to always keep running. How Home Depot is set up, we have these vendor-funded campaigns, which are campaigns that are specifically ran by vendors who actually give us money to advertise with Home Depot. But then there are in-house campaigns, which is run all the time, that the Home Depot runs for itself, right? So the company itself has to run their own ads, right? Their Home Depot ads and then their brand ads, all within the Home Depot company, but separated between our always running base ads and then our incremental ads, or our vendor-funded ads that run in certain time frames. A lot of our vendors run all year, because, why would you run for 2 months? You're selling products all year, so you need to run all year. And then that's where the money gets involved, right? So in this associate media manager role, I am responsible for the money. I don't do any day-to-day campaign optimizations anymore. I don't really write ad copy like that. If they need me to step in and do some things, I will help. I manage a colleague of mine who does the day-to-day. So my job is actually to manage him and make sure that the campaigns are running. So I do it from sort of like the sidelines. I'm still doing campaign management, but it's his job to actually manage the campaigns. And then we have an outside agency that we work with that handles some of our departments. So in coming into the associate media manager role, I actually took on more departments. I told you I started off in tools and hardware, but now I'm also responsible for building materials. So I have 5 departments that I'm responsible for at the Home Depot as far as their paid search goes. I'm responsible for all the budget planning. I'm responsible for all the budget forecasting. I'm responsible for the campaign strategy for any new launches. And that's essentially what I do. I'm not client facing in the sense of speaking to our brands like a Milwaukee or DeWalt or a Liberty or whatever. These are some of the brands that advertise with us. My clients are actually my in-house colleagues. My clients are my merchants. We have a merchant team. These are the people that go out to get the business for these brands. So I actually work more in-house with our creative team. I work with our merchant team and our merchandising team to make sure that we have, everything in place for that client on a big scale, right? Because this is retail. So a part of my job in that I say we have, shopping ads, sometimes I go in and say, we're out of stock. It's my job to say, hey, we're out of this. Are you getting more units in? Because I got ads running that say we have it and we don't. So I'll have to do the checks and balances behind the scenes. And I like being behind the scenes, as I said earlier. So that kind of works for me. The only pressures is that I went from those small budgets with those mom and pop businesses to big money. As you know, Home Depot is not working with chump change. So these people essentially give me millions of dollars to put into paid search to generate more money for them. That's what I do every day. I think that kind of covers it all. I'll recap and say this. If you're going into advertising, something that you should know about yourself is 1, are you creative or are you analytical? I'm both. I could switch it off, switch it on, which I feel like is like my superpower. Having been in multiple roles where I've had to switch it on and switch it off from creative to analytical, I know that I can do the balancing act. If you know that you're a super creative person, my suggestion would be to stay on the creative path. If you know that you are an analytical person, I would say kind of ride the fence. You know what I mean? And what I mean by that is this. I'm in a space now because I mostly crunch numbers every day where I want to be more creative. Even though I'm behind the scenes, I definitely feel that itch to say, I might kind of want to still write some bad copy tomorrow. Because there's so many numbers involved that after a while, you kind of do miss the creative side. You guys are in a position now to where you can figure out what it is you actually want to do with your life. You can figure out what path you want to go down. Within advertising, just know that there's different things that you can do. And these things can be fun for you. If you want to, be a project manager and kind of oversee, there's project manager roles within digital. I've done that. When I was at True IT Pros, I actually didn't mention this. I went back to True IT Pros after Cox Media Group as a freelancer that they could call on to actually help the website team as a project manager to try to keep them on track. That company actually grew in the time that I was away from them and acquired some web designers, and they needed somebody who actually knew the ins and outs of the company to come back and kind of, wrangle everybody in so that everything can move smoothly. So there's project management, there's creative writing, there's web content writing, but there's also the analytical side where you're optimizing, you're strategizing, your budget management. I think if the best thing is to probably, try to get an internship within advertising and see if marketing and advertising is something that you would like to do. I think for me, I'm a very practical person, so it worked out for me, right? I majored in marketing, I majored in writing. I just so happen to do it for a living. It's not always the way that things go for students. I feel very blessed that it's gone that way for me, but I also know that I made decisions that kind of put me on the path for that to happen. So, just think about advertising as a choice. I think if you start off like me, I want to write jingles, then you should probably write jingles. But if you want to try your hand at paid search, I think, for the right person, it could be the right fit. Any questions?
Chantae, thank you so much. We just caught a question in the chat. Lauren asks, how competitive is it in your career? Do many women do what you do? Do you recommend learning different skills for flexibility in your industry?
Okay, so competitive, I'd say it's pretty competitive, to be honest with you, but it depends on the vertical that you're doing paid search. Remember, I told you there are different verticals that represent the different industries. Right now, my vertical would be retail because I work for Home Depot. Working in retail is a completely different beast from working for the mom and pop shops. So right now I'm highly competitive, right? Because if you think about Home Depot as a company, my competition is Amazon, Lowe's, Target, Walmart. These people are not playing around. Like, everybody's putting a lot of money into their marketing department and everybody's trying to be number one. Essentially, that's what the goal is. Who wants to be number one on Google? Who wants to be number one on Bing? So there is high competition when you're looking at it from a company standpoint. As far as like an individual standpoint, and you're looking at competition, I wouldn't say it's that competitive on an individual level. It just depends on how that company's advertising team is structured. And what I mean is, you might say, okay, you've worked here, you've worked there. The reason why I've done that is because I got to spaces where I knew I couldn't grow. Okay. So in order to keep myself moving, I knew I had to make jumps to different companies. Within those companies, I wouldn't say that it was competitive for me per se, but I will say that a lot of women do not do what I do. This is definitely a male-dominated industry that I'm in paid search. On my team at Home Depot of 35 people in paid search, 4 of us are women, okay? 2 of us are Black women. So it's not a lot of women within the industry. All the other companies that I worked for, I would say at most there have been 5 women on the team amongst all the guys. So if a woman is trying to get into this industry, just know that it is male dominated, but I think that you can definitely navigate your way through it. As far as learning different things, yes, learn as much as you can, because I think that what you'll find is that it's not just what you're going to learn at that particular company, but the things that you learn outside are going to help you do your job better. And what I mean by that is that I read blogs for SEO and SEM. I read blogs for website content because it's going to keep me fresh. Google and Bing are always changing their platform with different integrations. They're actually moving into a new integration this year. So last year I had to prepare and learn some things. I'm learning some things now with Bing. They're moving into different ads where they're putting images in their ads. So you have to understand a little bit of design to do this role, not a lot, but you definitely have to have an eye for how things are placed. So I would say if there's any type of platform out there that you want to learn, definitely try to get that in. I do a lot in Excel. I'll tell you right now, I'm not an Excel guru. I have to go to my manager all the time for formulas, like, help me out, because I don't do pivot tables. Okay. So there are certain things that I'm still having to learn, in order to get better at what I do. So different platforms that I've worked on, again, Google and Bing. Specifically, if you want to learn Google and Bing, you have the opportunity to learn that. There's a professional side in Google when you go on advertising professional. There's a Bing advertising professional side. You do not have to already work in advertising to learn this. You can learn it on your own. You can become Google certified and Bing certified if you learn the platform and take the test. And I think it's helpful to do that. I've always had to be Google certified and Bing certified for every company I've worked for. So I've always had to go back and learn all the new things and actually prove it by taking the exam and getting my certification. Other reporting platforms, but like I said, we have to report the return on the investment. You have to show that we actually made the money. So you have to learn different platforms as far as reporting goes. And I think the reporting is probably the most intricate part that you can learn, because it's kind of hard sometimes to analyze this data. It's kind of hard to say, how much share of traffic you have online with your competition. We're always looking at different ways that we can figure out how we can convert customers a lot faster. So there's conversion data platforms that we have to learn. But everything is out there for you to learn. And a lot of this stuff is free. So if you, just kind of do some research, you can find the different things, Kinshu, just dropping names, Kinshu, Acquisio. These are different platforms that we use within this industry. And I can't think of some of the other ones, Adobe reporting. So if you know anything about, reporting on that side, these are platforms that you can learn that can help you grow, not only in paid search, but in the other digital channels. They use it in social media. They use it in display ads. It's all a part of advertising. So these are all the different platforms that I've had to learn throughout my career.
Nice. Next question from Nicole. What was the greatest challenge for you to overcome in adjusting to your current job, and or what continues to challenge you in a positive way?
Ooh. I would say my challenge is probably just working with, what should I say, learning the different teams, not necessarily working with them, but learning them. Like I said, a lot of my customers now, or what they consider to be my customers or clients, are actually my colleagues. Like, these are people that work at Home Depot too, right? But they're on different teams. And so I had to, and we're in a pod structure in this company. So, I'm advertising pod, somebody's merchandising pod, somebody's creative copy pod, so forth and so forth. I'm having to learn how to work with these different pods every day and figure out what they do. When I first came into Home Depot, it was really a hit the ground running. Having, years of experience, there was no on-the-job training as far as like to do the job itself. They were looking for people who just knew how to come in and do the work and just keep going and then learn the company. So my greatest challenge, honestly, was learning Home Depot and how these different pods work. What continues to challenge me is now I actually manage somebody. So when I came in, I was being managed. I had nobody that I had to be responsible for. Now I have one employee that I have to be responsible for. As I said, he is the actual campaign manager. So he's the guy that has to do the day-to-day. I'm on the back end, he's on the front end. So it's my job to not only juggle all this money and balance these budgets and crunch these numbers, I also have to make sure that he's on top of his game, right? Because we are responsible for 5 departments. And within the Home Depot, our 5 departments are like the biggest revenue drivers for the Home Depot. So paid search channel is super, super important, and we have to stay on top of our game. I would say those are my challenges on my day-to-day.
Right on. Thank you. Glenn asks, what would you recommend as a starting point for someone that would like to follow your career footsteps, but more on the analytical side?
I would say to come in as an analyst, but come in probably like in the data science side of it. So we have different analyst roles. You'll have like your campaign manager / analyst, which is the person who does, like I said, the day-to-day campaign management. They will actually create the campaigns. They'll do more of a little bit of the creative with the keyword research. That keyword research means that we put keywords on these campaigns so that when you put that keyword into Google, the ad will actually come up. So there's extensive research there. And then there's the ad copy, but then there's also the analyst role where it's strictly analytical. These people know data science. They are the people that do the reporting. It's their job to actually get all the conversion data from the back end of Google and Bing and to actually make it make sense for the clients, where we can say, okay, and just roughly, you had 100 clicks to your website this month. That brought you 30 conversions. Out of those 30 conversions, 20 people actually bought products. You can actually see the return on the investment. That's what the data science people do. They try to drive the back end so that your customers will convert more. So if you're looking to get in from the ground up and you want to be analytical, look at data science. Look at the reporting of it all. Within the digital marketing channels, because we have teams that do it for paid search, We have teams that do it for display. We have teams that do it for social. So, there's always a team of people that's going to be analytical that we need that can actually crunch those numbers. They work very heavy in Adobe tracking, and they work very heavily with Excel. So if you like, working in spreadsheets and you like crunching data numbers, then the analytical side is definitely for you. And that's how I would say we get in. A lot of these roles will say analyst. You have to read them to make sure that you're really in the analyst role, because you can kind of get caught up and do a creative role and you might not know it, because a lot of these titles are interchangeable. But that's how a lot of our analysts come in. They come in doing reporting, and then, you can still move up within reporting too, but that's usually how they come in. You're welcome.
Right on, Chantae. I have a question. So you've worked in advertising. Is there anything that you see in advertising that's making you excited about the field? Like what's happening in advertising that people should, look at or just think about, or, what's going on?
Wow. I would say just how we capture someone's attention, right? We have a very, very small window of time to get somebody to click on a paid search ad. The rule of thumb, as it still stands, is above the eye fold, right? So when you're looking at your computer, if it's at your eye level, we're probably going to get you. But if it's below the eye level, we're probably not going to get you. You know what I mean? This is why everybody wants to be number 1, number 2, number 3 on Google, because anything in 4th, 5th, and 6th place probably won't get a click. As you go down the page, how often do you scroll to the bottom of a Google listing? You don't. So it's like 30 to 45 seconds that somebody can say, "Ooh, I like it. I'm gonna click on it." And we're gonna get that customer to maybe come into the store later or to purchase online. I think just seeing the nature of how people shop is the most exciting thing. Real quick story. We're in a pandemic. Home Depot never stopped running, okay? They never stopped. They never took a break. They never shut down. They never pulled their advertising. We just got a little bit more conservative in how we speak to people, right? Because we want to be respectful in this time, but we never stopped doing that. What we learned was that when we all went into quarantine, people had things they needed to fix at their house. Everybody had a DIY project. So for us, and we watched consumer behavior go from foot traffic in the store to online sales going crazy, right? Everybody's purchasing online, shipping it to their house. The world starts to open up a little bit more. People are getting out. Online sales are going to do what? They're going to go down. Why? Because now you're going back into the store. So for me, it's always exciting to see how environmental changes will actually make consumer behavior change, right? The environment change, you had no choice but to change with it. And that's always the exciting thing within advertising for me.
Right on. Well, thanks, Chantae. And for those of you who came in late, we are celebrating Chantae's birthday. So if you want to throw a quick HBD in the chat, now would be a good time. But other than that, unless we have any other questions, that's our hour for today. So that's our career speaker series. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
But thank you so much, Chantae. It was really great. Thank you for everyone for your questions. Thank you for being here. As we said, you can find us at Delgado IT Pro on Instagram and Twitter. We are on Facebook, and we will be posting this recording to YouTube. So if you have a friend who's interested in advertising or the Home Depot retail vertical and just would like to hear some inside info, we're going to have this on YouTube. You can check it out. So thank you so much.
Thanks, y'all.
Right on. That's it. Have a great day.
All right.